Hey there, and welcome. Have you ever wondered how your favorite app saves your high score, or how an online store somehow remembers what's in your shopping cart? Well, it all starts with one single fundamental skill: adding information. Today, we're going to demystify exactly how to insert data into a database using SQL. So let's dive right in.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the absolute basics, then we'll write our very first command. After that, we'll learn some pretty cool shortcuts, see how the database can actually do some work for us, and then we'll connect it all to the real world and wrap up with a handy little cheat sheet.
All right, let's start at square one. What does it even mean to insert data? Well, to put it simply, it's the very first thing you do to make a database useful. It's how you turn an empty shell into a real source of information.
You know, a really good way to picture this is to think of a database like a big digital filing cabinet. Each table is like a drawer in that cabinet. So inserting data, it's as simple as sliding a brand new, perfectly labeled file folder right into that drawer. And this kind of thing is happening constantly, all around us. Databases are the power behind student records at schools, all the employee details at a company, every single online order you've ever made, every social media post you scroll past, and yep, even the high scores in your favorite games.
And here's the really crucial part. Learning to insert data isn't just some basic first step. It is one of the most frequent, most vital operations in the entire SQL universe. You're learning a skill that gets used literally millions of times every single second. All right, enough talk. Let's get our hands dirty. It is time to write our very first command and add a single piece of information, what we call a row, into a table. The command we're going to use is insert into. Its job is super straightforward but also really powerful. It just takes the data you give it and places it as a new, single entry in whatever table you pointed to. So let's break this down. Insert into students. That tells the database, hey, this is our target table. Then, the names in parentheses, student ID, name, age, those are the specific columns we want to fill. And finally, values is followed by the actual info we're adding. ID number 1, the name John, and the age 20. Simple as that.
So I want you to imagine this is our students table. It's perfectly structured, but it's completely empty. It's like a brand new spreadsheet just waiting for its very first entry.
And boom! After we run our command, this is what we get. Our data is now sitting there neatly organized in its own row. And just like that, we've brought our database to life with its very first piece of information. Pretty cool, right? Okay, adding one student is great. But what if you've got an entire classroom to enroll? Doing that one by one would take forever. So let's learn how to speed things up by adding multiple rows all at once with something called a bulk insert. A bulk insert is, well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a way to cram many rows of data into a table using just one command. And this isn't just about convenience, it's way faster and much more efficient for the database to handle.
Just take a look at the difference here. On the left, you've got one set of values for one person. But on the right, for a bulk insert, you just list out all your new rows one after the other, separated by commas. It's the same command, just supercharged.
Okay, so here's our table with just John in it. Now let's give him a couple of classmates.
And there you have it. With one single command, we've added both Sarah and David. You can already see how this would save a massive amount of time when you're dealing with hundreds or even thousands of new entries.
Okay, so we've gone from single to multiple. Now let's get a little smarter. What if you could actually let the database fill in some of the information for you? Well, that's exactly where default values come in. You know, sometimes a column has a really predictable value. For instance, a new task you add to a list is almost always going to be pending, right? Or a new user account is usually active. By setting a default value, we can tell SQL, hey, if I don't give you a value for this column, just go ahead and use the default.
Now, notice what's missing in this command. We're inserting into a tasks table, but we're only providing a task ID and a task name. We haven't said a single thing about the status column.
And now look at the result. The status column was automatically filled in with pending. The database saw we didn't give it a status, so it just used the default we set up earlier. This makes our code so much cleaner and keeps our data really consistent.
Okay, so we've covered the theory and we've written the code, but where does this stuff actually matter out there in the real world? The answer is pretty much everywhere you look. Let's see how these simple commands power our daily lives.
On a personal level, you could totally build a simple app to track your daily spending, save personal notes, or manage your to-do list.
Every time you'd add a new expense or a new task, you'd be running an insert command right there behind the scenes. And on an industrial scale, it's even bigger. Every time you sign up for a new service, that's an insert. Every time you place an online order, yep, that's another insert. Billions of financial transactions and massive data pipelines all run on this one fundamental operation.
Just to put that into perspective, large systems at, say, social media companies or big e-commerce sites are performing millions, maybe even billions of these insert operations every single day. The scale is just mind-boggling.
Whew, we have covered a lot of ground, from our very first single entry all the way to these massive, large-scale operations. So let's bring it all together with a final summary to really lock in these concepts. Here it is, your cheat sheet. Use a single insert for those simple, one-off additions. Switch to a bulk insert when you need speed and efficiency to load a ton of data. And you don't want to leverage a default insert to write cleaner code and let the database handle all those predictable values for you.
At the end of the day, you now hold the key to creating information from scratch. You have the power to turn empty tables into powerful, useful databases. So, the only question left is, what are you going to build first? Thanks for tuning in.